Hey, power people. Welcome to Renewable Rides. I'm Gareth Evans.
And I'm Dan Roberts. We're the founding team of VECKTA, a platform and marketplace streamlining how companies buy on-site energy.
In each episode, we'll uncover the latest trends, challenges, and triumphs relating to the energy transition through the experiences of our team and our inspiring guests.
Our goal is to help companies take action to create a resilient, profitable, sustainable, and thriving energy future.
Let's go.
All right, everyone. Welcome back to another episode of Renewable Rides. And Gareth and myself are excited to be picking things up here. And today we're digging into a topic that we've touched on the fringes of in some past episodes. But given many of the recent discussions, especially with large retailers with thousands of locations, we really wanted to focus on two key topics today. And really that's around the value of supplier diversity and the value of driving competition. And both seem somewhat obvious, but in this highly fragmented and dynamic market, we'll hit on some key points that I think our listeners would really want to consider when they're taking a project to market. But before we do so, Gareth, how you been? You've been climbing some mountains recently.
Been really good, Dan. I had the pleasure of getting out to Mount Whitney, the highest mountain in the lower 48, and the weather treated us kindly. The conditions were epic. Every corner we turned around, the scenery was better and better. And got a few days in the mountains, got to stretch the legs, got to experience a bit of thin air, and got to really challenge the limits and adapt, because one night in particular, we almost got blown off the mountain. So limited sleep, and it made the summit day a bit more challenging, but that's what it's all about. You can never predict what's going to go on in the mountains, and it's good to have game plans and backup plans and be able to think on your feet. So yeah, it was super awesome on many fronts. How are you?
Yeah, so happy that you got to experience that. As you know, I had a very similar game plan to what I had done years ago. I also find it funny that now that you've got your 100-mile under your belt, you've now done Whitney, that the first reaction from our director of marketing was, all right, so now it's time to run Mount Whitney, which is absolute insanity.
Yeah. I'm not sure I'm going to sign up for that one too soon.
Yeah, it's a bit too soon for that. So for me, it's been a good couple of weeks. Last week was the first week of school for my older son. He's now at the elementary school in TK, and so that's a big change. And then my younger started this week. But I think it was just a good reminder of human nature and our innate ability to resist change. Last week was a bit of a tough week for my 4-year-old, and he's coming around this week, and it's nice to get back into the routines and the rhythms of life. But just a nice stark reminder of human nature at work. But has E started school?
Yeah, he's back. He said to Mel walking up to school the other day, "It's great. I've already done 8 days worth of school." And Mel was like, "Nah, you've only done 3." And he's like, "Oh no, I've already overcalculated that I've done an extra week." So yeah, he's already counting down to next summer.
Nice. Well, so Gareth, digging in, what are some of the things that we've been hearing from customers?
Yeah, this is a really interesting topic, Dan, and I think there's a few very common responses we hear from customers when they're thinking about buying an energy system. First is, we've got a couple of firms that we've worked with in the past. I think we'll just turn around to them and get a few quotes, or we've been referred a few people. We haven't been able to vet them or verify who they are, but we've been recommended them. We'll check them out. The second is, at a corporate level, we're not sure who to use, so we've tasked our site teams with going to market and sourcing 3 bids for us to run our corporate competitive process. But we haven't actually verified or vetted the suppliers that our site teams are going with. And the last, and I think most common, is we've received an unsolicited bid from a local developer, and we're not sure whether it's any good. We're not sure whether we trust them, and is this the right supplier for us? So I think they're the 3 big pain points. And Dan, what are leaders thinking about when they're going through this process?
So the thing that I want to bring in here is that it's not just folks that are going on this journey for the first time. I've
Mm.
been having some meetings over the last several weeks with two in particular of the most prolific deployers of on-site energy systems. These are retailers that are consistently ranked in the top five of number of installations, and both are expressing a need for a larger network or a larger pool of suppliers to bring into. I mean, these are national or in some cases some international chains, and so they want to really expand the pool of suppliers that they are even taking projects to, or even considering putting projects in front of. And then certainly, of course, they need to be able to drive competition among them. But I think it's important to reflect on the fact that even those that have, in this case, over 100 or over 200 installations under their belt, but they don't continue to hold on to this small pool of suppliers that have done it for them in the past, and they expect to do it for them in the future. They really want to explore and see what others are out there. And I think the first and foremost reason why that's important is that regional players are often delivering the greatest value. And when you have a very large portfolio, it's nearly impossible to maintain a robust list of suppliers, developers, EPCs, solar contractors across each region or state. And these delivery partners really specialize in not just their own individual regions, but they can often specialize in different energy systems and commercial models. What I mean by that is there are, from a system sizing perspective, there are some contractors that focus on small commercial and residential projects. And so their sweet spot is maybe the projects that are 100, 200, maybe up to 500 kilowatt systems. And then there's others that really don't even want to put forth a proposal, or really don't get excited for anything below 1 megawatt. And a quick tip for everyone out there: the small guys, they'll always tell you they can do it. I mean, we've seen it before where they've got the largest project they've ever done is a 350 kilowatt project, yet they're trying to convince someone why they should be building a 5 megawatt system. Beyond the system sizing, the configurations is another key important component, especially as you're looking beyond solar and you're looking to deploy battery energy storage systems, EV chargers, gas generators. We have a customer right now that is now in the process of shortlisting among suppliers that have bid on their project through the VECKTA marketplace, that was really looking for a backup battery energy storage system because it's a biotech firm. They've got really critical samples that they need to make sure that they don't lose in their processes. And they went to many firms, and those firms saying, no, sorry, you probably shouldn't do that, or that's not what we do and specialize in. And so that kind of turned them off. And luckily we got in touch with them. And the last being commercial model. So many developers are focused solely on energy as a service or deploying power purchase agreements. And they're largely financial institutions that are looking to deploy capital, and then they have EPCs or contractors that they use to build the projects. But if you're a company that's looking to self-finance a system, or you want to own it, going back to some of the financing episodes we've done recently, you want to own it, but through a debt vehicle, those firms just simply aren't going to be worth putting on your radar and putting your project in front of. So those are some of the key considerations when looking at firms. Gareth, what are some of the reasons that we want to expand our pool of suppliers?
Yeah, I'd just say, Dan, on the financing side, another key one is actually your own credit worthiness. Some developers are very tight with respect to what types of projects and what type of companies they can invest, and maybe only a credit, an A credit company, they can only develop projects for those. And so if you're a B or lower, you're not going to be able to even work with some of the top developers. And so also understanding where you fall within your own position in the market, and being able to make sure you align with the best suppliers who match your own internal metrics as well. Another way that we can really drive competition and opportunity in the market is through understanding in the supplier network, how they're positioned from a labor perspective. Everyone's got different strategies around labor. Some have full-time contract crews on staff, and They take them from job to job. Others actually contract people on the fly when projects come up. And so understanding how that market works and understanding who has capacity at any one time can actually allow you to really drive more competitive and cost-effective outcomes. We saw this recently with a project where the customer wanted union labor, and the union labor actually had a fair bit of extra capacity, and they were underutilized at the time of bidding this opportunity. And so we were able to help them drive a really competitive price because the business was very keen to put that labor force to work. Another one is on the equipment side. A lot of companies have different strategies around this. They'll either buy equipment on spec, and in which case, timing of when you go to market will be super important. And other times, companies will actually buy some of this equipment in bulk, and then they'll pass on those savings to you. But understanding which suppliers in the market and what their strategies are and how much equipment they've got available can really help us enforce being able to buy the right system at the right price at the right timing to really maximize your either self-investment in this system or actually negotiating a really long-term power purchase agreement. If the supplier can do the job cheaper, then you get the benefits of that over the long term. So super important, super exciting, lots of ways to play with the levers to get some really aggressive deals in the market. Dan, we also see a lot of opportunity on the incentives and grants side. Do you want to talk us through that?
Certainly. So local incentives or other grants is another great example of where one supplier might outshine another. And if you just went to one or a couple of the known entities, you may miss out on this. And another good example is a firm was going out for a pretty large scale power purchase agreement, and one of the top two or the final two suppliers that they were in the midst of negotiating with had said, we can actually bring your PPA price down even further because assuming we are able to secure one of the REAP grants. We've talked about the REAP grants in a previous episode. It's put out by the U.S. Department of Agriculture, but they're grants for these systems. And so that firm said, great, we'll apply for this. We've got a ton of experience. So we're actually 12 for 12 when applying for these grants, that we actually receive them for projects that we do or for our customers. And so we think this is a great pathway to bring your PPA price down even further. The other firm that was at the table didn't bring up the grants at all. And when asked about it, they had zero experience doing that. It's essentially an indirect piece of the price because it's about a grant and who can we bet on to have a higher likelihood of securing that and therefore bringing the power purchase agreement price down. So I think that's an interesting nuance that a lot of people might not think about. So moving on to not just the supplier pool, but why drive competition? And I think it's important for everybody to be considering these are one-way door decisions. These are 15, 25 plus year investments. And I think competition seems obvious from a price perspective, and it does force developers and EPCs and contractors to sharpen their pencils when they know they're competing for the work. But in on-site energy systems, it's not only about the price. And there are other important factors to be considered and why it's important to drive competition. These things are like warranties, development schedules, operations and maintenance packages, escalators on power purchase agreements. And what I mean by that is how much does that PPA price go up over time? Oftentimes there is an escalator, and at some points you can negotiate a 0% escalator, which is huge when you look at a 25-year contract. And so we've yet to see through procurements that have happened through the VECKTA marketplace a customer go with the absolute lowest price. It's not about a race to the bottom, but it's looking at all these different factors and then the experience of those firms that you want to consider in order to nail down the right partner for you for long term. And there's a couple great examples that maybe you can share with the listeners about, Gareth.
Yeah, I'd also just say, Dan, in terms of driving really competitive prices, something that we're seeing a lot of opportunity for customers right now is being able to package up portfolios of sites of similar type in similar locations. And so where we see customers really fall down on this is where they've gone to market and they've selected one contractor to support them for 70, 100, 200 sites across the country or around the world. And that doesn't really lead to good outcomes, to your first point earlier, Dan, around the regional and localization of these opportunities and regulations and interconnection agreements. But if you can package up a portfolio of sites at a local or a regional level and buy based on bulk purchases, that also can drive a lot of competition. But having multiple suppliers compete for that portfolio is key. I think in terms of some real standout examples that we've seen lately, the biotech company you referred to earlier, Dan, theirs is a solar and storage project. Solar actually makes up 65% of the total project costs. They've received a bid from the market unsolicited. The customer's best price that they'd been able to get was just over $4,300 per kilowatt. And then through our marketplace process, we were able to secure them $3,500, a 20% cost savings. On the storage side, the customer's best price was $1,600 a kilowatt hour, and we were able to secure them $1,000 a kilowatt hour, which is a 38% cost saving, which is huge. And across the whole project, that allowed the customer to secure a contract that is 26% less than what they would have paid if they'd have just relied on the single bid that they had in hand. On the cold storage side of things, really exciting project. But the customer was approached by another unsolicited bid. $10 per kilowatt hour was the unsolicited proposal. And we're able to secure them 7.7 cents, which is 23% cheaper. And over a 20 plus year term, this is over $4 million worth of cost savings. And so I think the bottom line here is these aren't small projects, and we're not talking about driving competition to save a few pennies and dollars here and there. These are tens, hundreds of thousands, if not millions of dollars worth of cost savings by driving a very competitive process to ensure that you get the best system at the right price with the right partner. I think this isn't unlike our own personal experiences, is it, Dan? The reality is very few of us would run out and buy a house, a car, a holiday just on spec, seeing one example and actually not doing our own research, our own due diligence. We would always compare the specs of each offer. We'll look at the price, we'll compare the price, and we get to negotiate and then ultimately make a buying decision by having options available to us. Where we always fall down is where we get lazy. We decide that we're just going to buy the first one that shows up because it feels right, only to then find next week it's on sale and we've missed out on huge cost savings, or interest rates are changed, or whatever it may be. And so it's really important that we do our due diligence, that we have the right partners and advisors around us, and that we make, really good buying decisions based on data, insights, and intelligence, not gut instinct.
Couldn't agree more. It's an important topic, one that we're talking with customers on a daily basis about, and it can be a cumbersome process to go at alone, and one that with the right partners and technology can be pretty seamless. So feel free to reach out if anybody has any questions on this topic.
Love it. Good episode, Dan. Great topic. Here's to more profitable and sustainable purchasing decisions.
Cheers.
See ya. We receive a lot of questions from business leaders around the world wanting to learn more about the energy transition, what is possible, and where to start. So to help you stay informed and up to date on best practices, opportunities, risks, and success stories, we created an industry newsfeed at VECKTA.com/news with all our podcasts, blogs, and newsletter. Check it out and connect with Dan, myself, and the VECKTA team to learn more. Cheers and have a good one.